Okay, now what we want to do is sketch the graphs of all of these polynomial functions. We want to pay special attention to the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and the behavior as x approaches positive and negative infinity. Now remember, this part right here really just means what's the general shape of our graph. Okay, so this one, if we were to multiply all of these out, our leading coefficient would be -2, and our variable part would be x cubed, -2x cubed. Since this is cubed, we know it's going to have that S shape. But since the leading coefficient is negative, it's going to reflect over the x-axis, which means it'll be something like that. Of course, with crazy stuff in the middle, but the general shape is like this. To find the x-intercepts, you're supposed to set each of these factors equal to 0. If you do that, these will be your x-intercepts. 0, 0, -2, 0, and 1, 0. Now to find the y-intercept, you're supposed to let all the x's equal 0. Well, this will be -2 times 0, that's 0. 0 times something is 0. So your y-intercept is the same as this x-intercept. So let's see how this looks in graph form. So what we have is the point 0, 0, the point -2, 0, and the point 1, 0. Remember, our general shape of the graph looks something like this. Well, it's falling from the left, and it continues to fall on the right. So this is how we will come up with that particular graph. For B, what we need to do is completely factor it first. So we'll have x squared minus 4. This is difference of squares. So we're going to have, oh, that's a fourth, not a squared. So what we're going to have is x squared plus 2 and x squared minus 2. And we need to factor these. However, it may be easier to go ahead and set them both equal to 0 so we can find out what those x-intercepts are. So x squared equals -2, which means x equals plus or minus I square root of 2. And this one will have x squared equals 2, which means x equals plus or minus the square root of 2. Now the square root of 2 is approximately 1.4. I only did that so that I'll know where to plot it on the Cartesian coordinate system. Now, since this one is imaginary or complex, we can't really plot that anywhere. So it's still a 0 of the function, but it's not one of the x-intercepts. So your x-intercepts are going to be the square root of 2, 0, and the negative square root of 2, 0. Now we need to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0. So 0 to the 4th is 0. So 0 minus 4 is -4. Your y-intercept will be the point 0, -4. Since this is an x to the 4th function, this means it's a parabola shape, so it looks something like this, and it's pointing upwards because the leading coefficient is positive. Then it's going to pass through these 3 points. So for B, you get a graph very similar to this one. Here is your -1.4, your positive 1.4, and the y-intercept is here at 0, -4. For the last one, we have x squared plus x minus 2. This can be factored. So h of x will be equal to, we'll have our x's, a 1 and a 2, and the 2 needs to be positive. So if we set both of those equal to 0, we find out x is equal to 1 and -2. That would be your two x-intercepts, 1, 0, and negative 2, 0. To get your y-intercept, we let all of these x's equal 0. Well, that's 0, that's 0, you're only left with negative 2. So your y-intercept is the point 0, negative 2. This is an x squared function, which again means we have a parabola, so it points up in both directions. So for that one, we'll get a graph very similar to this one. We see that it's a parabola. We see that it passes through the points negative 2, 0, and 1, 0, and it has a y-intercept of 0, negative 2.